Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's card making video, I'm making 3 cards for you, each with a different kind of wintry background, and I am making some fuzzy bears using flocking. It's so much fun. I'm so glad you're here to join me. All right, card number 1, I wanted to first show you the polar bear pair die set from Trinity Stamps. It has a large and a small polar bear, each with their own scarf and a die that cuts a nose and an eye for them. Here's the flocking I'm using from Pink and Maine. I have the sparkling cottontail that I'll be using, so it's flocking with glitter in it. And then I have the red, which is also, you can get it in plain flocking or with glitter. And same for the brown, the teddy bear. Isn't it cute? Has glitter. I'm going to use the plain brown today. And then I also actually ended up bringing in my green foiling, which is Astroturf. Isn't that a cute name, Astroturf? All right, so I have a white piece of cardstock and some double-sided adhesive sheets. And yes, sometimes it is very difficult to get the backing off, but I got it. Okay, we're gonna stick that down, and the adhesive side is actually going to be the front of my paper today because I want to stick the flocking to the front of the bear. So I'll die cut that out, and now I have this white cardstock with adhesive all over the front of it. This is going to be the perfect thing to stick the flocking to. So I put this into a little dish that has my coffee filter in it. That's going to allow me to pour the excess flocking back into the jar very easily. Next, I just rub the flocking right in to that sticky cardstock, and I have a fuzzy and glittery polar bear. So very cute. For the scarf, I have red cardstock with my double-sided adhesive on it. I prefer using colored cardstock that matches my flocking. Then if the flocking is like a little thin in one area, it's not going to show white cardstock through, but you can do it with white cardstock. Okay, here's the die that cuts out the noses and the eyes. The nose and the eyes for the polar bear are the smallest dies I have ever seen in my entire life. And I just teeny tiny die cuts. Like I would rather take like a Sharpie and make an eye for this thing. So, but I really like the silhouette feel of this and didn't feel like I really needed the eye. So I went without. Okay, now let's make a Northern Lights background. I have some Bristol Smooth cardstock and I am creating that wave of light in Parrot ink from Altenew with my blending brush. And I really wasn't sure what I was doing. I had an inspiration picture and I just decided to go with those colors and kind of try to mimic how the light waves through the sky and also streaks up into the sky. So now I'm bringing in a lighter ink, which is bamboo, and you can see kind of streaking that upwards as I blend. And what I really tried to do, because I wasn't sure what I was doing, is just to start out with like a really light hand and build up the color as I go, as I got more confident with how I wanted the look to be. So that's what I'm doing. Next, I am going to add the blue. So next ink is Aqualicious. It's one of my favorite inks from Altenew. I use it a lot. It's probably time for me to re-ink this guy. It's such a good color and one of my favorite colors all around. So I'm adding that again with a light hand and just intensifying it as I go. And because I have Bristol Smooth cardstock, it really is forgiving. If you get a little dot, you can blend it out. It's great paper for ink blending backgrounds. All right, so next is the Galactic Stream, which is like the perfect color for this darkening up of the sky. I wanted to have the feel of a night sky, so I needed to darken this up a little bit, but still have those bright light colors streaking through. So again, I'm just darkening it up more and more as I go, blending it more and more as I go, and just taking my time and really having fun with it. I'm putting a little touch of that blue at the top. I started with just the ink that was left over on my brush and then darkened it up a little bit more. And I can go back and forth between my colors and always add a little more or blend it out a little bit as I need to. Now it's time for black. This is probably the scariest part of this card, is adding black when I have this ink on there. But it really added to the nighttime feel of the sky, and I put it all the way around on all 4 sides and really just starting with a tiny bit at a time. You can see I went back with my blue brush brush and soften the blend between the black and the blue on the bottom there, because that's where the most black is. All right, so now I think I'm done, but I wanted more streaking of that green, so I brought my blue brush in with no extra ink on it and started adding little streaks. And I feel this ink blended part, it really helped the streaks stand out. It was the biggest little, yeah. It made the biggest change in my streaking is using that blue, but I softened it out a little bit with my green brush, and then I'm going to bring in a dry paintbrush and add just a tiny bit of water to my glass mat. And then I have the slightest amount of water on my brush and adding some streaks in that way, because the Altenew ink does react with water. So it's going to add just that touch of streaking that I think this card really needed. Okay, now I want to have a place for my polar bear to stand, and in my inspiration picture that I found on the World Wide Web, there were black rocks like in a stream, and that really inspired me to use this black glitter paper to create some rocks at the bottom of my card instead of like a traditional snowy look. And I think it also gives you more of a feel of a nighttime scene as well. So I just figured out where I wanted those to be placed. I can, just play around, scoot things around before you commit with adhesive. So once those are glued in place, now I have the perfect spot for my polar bear to stand and admire the northern lights right on that biggest rock. So I'm just gluing everything down. Here's a shocker in this whole video. I never used foam squares. Okay, for my sentiment, I'm using this Sparkle Season stamp set. It has a cool tree made out of gems, but I really wanted it for the sentiments. It says, "May your holidays sparkle and shine." I just lined up all of those stamps in a row onto a piece of black cardstock, which I did treat with anti-static powder. I have to tell you that because it doesn't look like I used it at all here in a minute. So I stamped my sentiment with clear embossing ink. Then I sprinkled on the white powder, tapped it off. Yes, I did. And yet there's still white powder on there. So I'm right there with you guys. Sometimes these things just don't work out how you hope. But I am trimming this down, so it's going to be a very skinny strip. So I didn't let it get to me too much because I knew I would cut away most of that straggling white embossing powder. I'm using my quick trimmer, and I need some temporary adhesive on the back so it'll hold still so I can cut this super skinny strip, and it is perfect. So easy to do. And then I just cut the end at an angle for a little, visual interest. And then I'm going to glue this down, and I love the skinny strip because it doesn't take away from my background. I have some Oh My Stars from Trinity stamps. They are silver with a holographic finish, and I thought it was the perfect embellishment to add just a little something to this scene to embellish it. I love embellishments on my card, and it's another element of shine. Besides my glitter paper, my glittered flocking, even embossing powder has a shine to it when you heat it up. So the stars really add to that. Now I'm adding this to a black card base because that black border around the edge is really going to add to the nighttime feel also. And this is a slimline card, so it's 8.5 by 3.5 inches and fits into a business size envelope perfectly. So there you can see my fuzzy little polar bear and the gorgeous northern lights. I mean, I have to admit it. I think this is so pretty. I hope you agree. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay. All right. So that is my first card, but on the next card, I'm going to show you that giant, big polar bear. It's giant. That bear is about 5 inches long and 2 3/4 of an inch wide. He's huge. So I'm going to make another white polar bear with a red scarf. I'm partial to these because I love all things Coca-Cola, mostly decor. So the polar bears at Christmas I just think are so cute. So here you can see really well, just rubbing that flocking right into the paper. It really helps it stick down. And then you just tap off the excess and he's ready to go. It's like really easy to do. All right, so he's got his red scarf, he's got his black nose, and now I thought you might want to see the two side by side. The other bear is about 2 3/4 of an inch long. So quite smaller. Next, I have the Falling Snow Hot Foil Plate. This is going to cover a card, but here's the thing. I am doing a card that is 5 by 7, and it's going to be the landscape way. So getting all of this to fit on my hot foil plate is tricky. So I'm going to show you how I worked around this. First, I'm showing you my quick trimmer cutting my foil into pieces. So quick and so easy. I'm putting my plate onto my preheated hot foil system. If I turn it this way so my paper fits on, the plate goes over onto the white edge of my plate and it will press into that, and I don't want it to do that. So my plate really has to go this way. So what I'm going to do is add my hot foil. I didn't put it on the right way. There we go. And I'm going to have my paper hang off the edge. You'll see how I make that work in just a second. So first I need to press the timer, add my spacer plates, and once the timer goes off, then I can run it through my die cut machine. So I have my platinum machine. It is a large platform that fits like 8.5 by 11 paper. And so that's how I'm able to run this through my machine with the paper hanging off the edge. So now I'm going to repeat that, but I need to flip my plate all the way around so that I can have the paper hang off the same edge so it doesn't cover up my buttons and my lights. And then I can just try to eyeball the seam or the edge of the snowflakes I already did. I'm going to tape that into place so it kind of stays put, add my plates, press my timer, and again run it through my large die cutting machine, and you can see the paper can easily hang off the edge. So that was my workaround for this, because this plate, the snow is more concentrated at the top than at the bottom, so I couldn't really do this any other way. This is the only way I could think of. All right, we're going to do some ink blending over the top of that. I'm bringing back both of the blue teal colors that I used on the previous card. Aqualicious as my lightest color. I'm starting at the bottom and blending that really lightly towards the top. And then I'll do the opposite with the top part of the card and the Galactic stream. So the darkest color is going to be towards the top, and I'm going to lighten that out as it meets up with the Aqualicious and blend those together, and it looks like this. It's so good. So you just want to buff off any ink that might be sitting on top of that hot foiling, and the hot foiling will shine through. I used Prism hot foil there. It's so gorgeous. Now I'm going to use some white glitter paper this time. The glitter paper I'm using throughout this video is a black and white pad from ARTEZA. They have this pack with 24 12 by 12 sheets. It's so very good. But if you don't want to fussy cut your snow, there are a lot of slimline dies from Trinity Stamps. Here's a couple that you could choose for today's card. I'm going to use this die right here that has kind of a wave, and I will link both of these die sets in the description for you below in case you're into slimline cards like I am, or even 5x7 cards, because this is going to work on my 5x7 card. So I have the stitched edge here. The other edge that I cut off, I'm going to save for my next card and use that one as well. So I just glued that to the base and then snip off the ends, and it worked perfectly for my card. Then it's time to add those polar bears, so I'm going to glue them into place. I'm adding the first one, the largest one first, and then I can nestle the smaller one in and around. But they're going to fit edge to edge. Now this piece of paper right here is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So when I mount it to my 5x7 card, I'll have a little border all the way around. Now for this sentiment, I wanted to bring back that sparkle and shine, but this time I'm going to use the scripty part of that stamp set. I am still embossing with white powder, but this time on some red cardstock. So add that white powder, and then I will have a sentiment that has part that's like a scripty font and part that's like a typed font. So I love combining those two looks together. These all have a die that cuts them out. Now I didn't use this die I'm taping down right now in the first one because I made one long continuous sentiment, and that's why I had to do a strip. But there are dies for all the words in this Sparkle Seasons stamp and die set. So now it's time to glue it all together. I tried to center my cardstock with that wide line on my grid mat so I could center May Your Holidays, and then I'm putting down the and first, then the sparkle and shine. Now maybe you want to use like a T-square ruler for this, but I really just do better when I eyeball things. So let's add some glistening snow confetti. These are just flat back confetti pieces. They don't have a hole in the middle, and some of them have an iridescent finish to them, and some of them are just white. So I thought that was really fun, and I'm using all that have the iridescent finish and not the white ones, but you could use these in a shaker card too. They're so good in a shaker. All right, so there are my embellishments. So it's time to go ahead and glue this down to my 5x7 card, and you can see I'm going to have that white border all the way around. I love that look on my cards so much. So there is the finished card with both size polar bears on it. We've got that hot foiled background with the ink blending. It's so very pretty. So fuzzy, so shiny. All right, so for card number 3, we're going to go in a different direction altogether. We're making brown bears. These are so cute. I feel like they look more like a grizzly bear, so that's why I did the brown. But you could also do a black bear in black, you know. So brown paper with the double-sided adhesive sheet on top and teddy bear flock. This time I'm not going to use glitter. I just felt like the glitter, I didn't want to do glitter for the bear itself. So this one to me looks the fuzziest. I think it is so much fun. So there's my brown bear. And then I am going to I'm doing 2 bears. One is going to have a green scarf and one a red scarf. And I will do the sparkling flock for that. So this is Sparkling Astroturf. Such a good name. And one will have a green scarf, one will have red, and they'll both be nice and sparkly. So here are the 2 finished bears with their noses, no eyes. Am I crazy not to put the eye on? Somebody tell me. Okay, for this background, I'm using only one color of ink. I'm also making a 5x7 card this time, but I will have, this one is oriented in a different direction. Instead of landscape, it'll be portrait style. So I'm making the darkest concentrated ink at the bottom of my card and blending this up to white. So I'm going to have a little white space at the very top. And this particular cardstock I chose this time is Hammermill, and it is also nice and smooth, great for hot foiling, and it does really well with ink blending, and I'm able to use that nice ergonomic blending brush from Trinity Stamps to get really quick and easy coverage. I spritz this with water, and here you can see that the Altenew inks do interact with water quite well. Isn't that cool? So that's my first layer of kind of the snowy look. The second thing I'm going to add is Sparkle Silk. This is from Spellbinders, and it's a clear liquid with some shimmer in it. And so I'm going to add a ton of this, way more than you actually saw me add, and I added even more after this. It's still wet there, and when it dries, it'll be a lot more shimmery. Next, I am bringing in this Birch Tree background cover plate die. It is 5x7 in size, but it also has quite a few leaves. So I needed to give it a little trimming time to make this more wintry. So I trimmed away the leaves and gave it a much more wintry look, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. That's going to go right over the top of my background, and it really enhances the winter look with just the blue and the white trees. And remember this piece back from my previous card? I saved it, and now I'm using it for the little snow at the bottom of this card. So I glued that down and trimmed off the end, and now I can glue down my bears. So these 2 fit side by side really well on this piece of cardstock that is 5 inches in width. So there you can kind of get a feel for how big they are. And I think they're really cute with their red and green, and that is going to be the inspiration for a lot of the rest of this card. I wanted to add more of those green and red things, like in the form of a piece of holly with berries. This is a free die set. When you order at Trinity Stamps and your order is $25, you get a little free die set with your order, and the more you order, the more of them you can collect. So this is the most recent one right here with the holly and the berries, but I thought I'd show you some of the others. And I thought it made a really fun little accent. I love anything holly and berries. I love. So adding this to the top of the card, I thought was so cute. It made me so happy. I know it's not quite like realistically part of the scene, but it really adds to that Christmassy feel, and I loved it, so I did it. I put one in the opposite corner as well, and then I was ready to do my sentiment. So I have the Simply Sentimental Holidays and the Simply Sentimental Happy. I'm going to stamp the coordinating or matching sentiments that are small and scripty, and I'm using lobster ink. Now I have to tell you, I really hate inking up my clear stamps with red ink. I hate it. But I'll tell you what I hate more is having stamps that aren't used, that I didn't ever use. So I like to console myself with the fact that I'm using my stamps. It's okay if they are stained red, right? Yeah, so I'll just glue those into place so they're at the top of the card, kind of just like strung between the tops of the trees, and I really like how that turned out. Now let's embellish with some winter sky clay embellishments. These have a little bit of a bluish tint to them, and they go really well with the color of my background. So I added a bunch all around this card to add to that snowy look without adding any more splattering or anything, and it just is the perfect embellishment, I think. But any clay snowflakes I think would look really fun on this card as well. Loving it. All right, so my little holly berries I felt needed to have a frosty look. So I brought in my diamond stickles, added that to the berries and the leaves just a little bit so they look nice and frosty to finish out this card. And I just loved the contrast of that bright blue background with the reds and the greens. It's so pretty. It's really hard for me to decide which of these cards is my favorite today because the Northern Lights is so fun. I love the look of like the mama and the baby bear walking together on the tundra and the pop of red on that card. So wow, I had so much fun with these cards. The bears being flocked makes my heart so happy. I love having that fuzzy element, the glitter, the shine. Yeah, I just had fun with these, so I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. Maybe you've picked up a few things that you can try yourself. That would make me so happy. So let me know your thoughts, your comments, chit chat with me below, and I will see you there. And again, if you need any of these supplies, they're linked for you below. I'll see you all again very soon on the next video. Happy stamping! Bye!